indicators, the results of this SAGE, the results of social protection, where are they? How do we connect? Of recent, I've been taken somewhere to study issues of social protection, and I was like, in Uganda, we do not track where the 25,000 has gone, what has it done, and who has it changed in life. I get to a certain place and somebody says, in the generation of my grandmother, I will not have my children on social protection. The life of that person changes because of that little grant. And I know doctor here is an economist. How does this money transform that family? And somebody says, yes, my mother was on social protection, but because of the money, we used it to do economic activity, which activity made me go to school. And when I went to school, I produced my children. My children cannot go back to social protection, the SAGE. And I think we need to think around that. What is the multiplier effect on this SAGE? Is it about distributing money? And in my ministry, always quarrel, money should be the last thing. There's an issue of mindset. Where will we put our people? It is just waiting for 80 years, the old woman is taken to get SAGE. Now, cabinet is saying reduce to 65. Now, anybody on 65 will be running to get SAGE money. But what is the plan of the 25,000? How does it make this family change? And that is the story we want to hear. Because if my child now comes out as not a beneficiary of SAGE, that child is going to work, bring back money to the economy. My children also will be able to work and get the economy. And the lifestyle starts now to change from this 25,000. There should be a story. There should be something. Whereas we discuss issues of inclusion. And then the other thing of SAGE, again in Uganda, we find ourselves, it is the age indicator more than any other social things. You get some. But I just wanted to bring my ideas. I hope it will help this plan dialogue to grow so that we don't begin getting people just because of an age, and yet you have a capacity.
Grace Asamo, the children should be the first area of social protection to their fathers and mothers. Let me hear Honorable Flavia Kabahenda, and then I will move to another table. I'll just have two. There is a gentleman at the back, but let me have Honorable Flavia Kabahenda.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Dr. Muhumuza for where I found him. And the subject of social protection is so dear to my heart. But there's one thing I'm realizing that we have really endeavored as a country and a government to eradicate poverty. And we have eradicated it generally. But there is this poverty that we rarely talk about, and I've heard Dr. Muhumuza bring it in, how much people spend on food. There is food poverty. And food poverty has a clause in the SDGs. Food poverty has a lot of reasons why it comes, maybe because people have no incomes and whatnot. But what I've seen is that whenever people have low incomes, it is food that is easier to sacrifice. They say, okay, now I think we can start eating once, because the money has reduced. It is the easier thing to sacrifice even more than a dress. One will buy the dress, but they say, okay, I'll reduce on the food so that it can fit into the income, but they won't reduce on the dress and the shoe. And so something needs to be done about the mindset, because food is one of the basic areas where social protection would begin. Because without food, the levels of our food insecurity globally as Uganda are termed very serious. Malnourishment, stuntedness, wastedness, and even mortality. And so I thought that food insecurity would be higher on the radar as we try to talk about social protection. And I also wonder why the right to food is not listed on the Bill of Rights in the Constitution of this country. So where do we place food in this country?
Thank you, Honorable Flavia. Let me have the gentleman, the other side, and then I think, okay, the last one will be here. Then I will invite Dr. Muhumuza to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I want to appreciate your presentation. On the public service pension, it has already been, I'm just adding information for further clarification.
Remind him your name so that
West Guarbert, Assistant Commissioner, Minister of Public Service. The public service pension has already been reformed as per the Public Service Pension Fund Act number 5 of 2025. And it is destined to commence in the financial year 26-27. I mean 2026-27. About your worries on the trillions needed, I think you don't need to be worried. We only need 15.9 billion in the next financial year, which is already in the budget framework. And the 19.736 trillion, which you mentioned, is spread over 54 years. So there are no worries. Thank you.
So in other words, money will come. Money will come. That's beautiful. Let me get the last hand here. Then Dr. Muhumuza, you'll kindly respond.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. Geoffrey Sajad again from NSSF. Doctor, I've come across two ironies in the last 1 month. One of them happened as you talked. That as we invest more money, the growth rates seem to be going down. Could it be a factor of the sectors where the money is invested that they don't have the impact to contribute to the growth rates, going higher? Or is it an issue of how efficiently the money that is being invested is actually being, used? So, because I find it quite ironic in a way. But number two, the other irony is when you look at numbers from UBOS, where we see that the lifespan has actually improved, okay? But when you break down the numbers, they seem to suggest that people in areas that are poorer seem to live longer than those that ought to be living longer because they are doing fairly better. The people in places like Central, like you indicated, where poverty levels are much lower, should have access to better things like, healthcare. And ordinarily you'd think that those should be living longer. Isn't it also ironical that when you break down the numbers in terms of lifespan, people that are ordinarily in areas that are poorer tend to be having a higher lifespan? So I would like to get a bit of your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Dr. Muhumuza, respond to those, but also explain to us the jobless economic growth. The economy is growing, but we don't see the jobs. And so social protection where the children may not come that easily. Please.
Complex things. I always say the apps came to grow the economy faster, but they're taking out the jobs. The problem with the apps, they don't eat food, so the restaurant jobs disappear. They don't rent. So if you are putting your social protection in rentals, apps live in the cloud, but we'll find them growing. So we are going to get into jobless growth, and that should be the new thinking. That's why I said America offers food support and other forms of support to its citizens. So we've got to make sure how do we tax the growing areas and efficiently spend the money to these 78 and 73-year-olds who have a grandchild. So it's going to be the collection and the distribution. We need to improve all those areas. Otherwise, these anomalies are going to continue. Economists has what they call the stock and the flow. Serena here, the buildings is a stock. Big money. But if you people don't come here and take tea, Serena won't make money. That's the flow. The number of people flowing in here and flowing out. Every time you take some omelette here, take some water, converse, Serena is making money. Now, what we have done in government, we have invested heavily in stock. And that's what you saw there. Kilometers of roads, transmission lines, bridges, roads, rails. But what is on those roads? Every time I'm driving up country, I see your vehicles, that is not making money. That's not the economy. You're supporting the Japanese and the Arabs who sell the oil. I'm waiting for a truck with cows, with coffee, with cotton. That's what grows the economy. And as long as that is not happening, jobless growth. And these are the ironies that we are seeing. But they translate to that community household level. So we need a deeper planning that looks at the end, and then you come back and say, this person scores the goal, but who does the assist? But also who prevents goals in my own net? So you got to look at all the 11 players. And I think that is the thing in the strategic plan, that we have not looked at all the linkages. People are still running solo and running around. So we have work to do, and we need a lot to do it. I think I've received very good comments to carry along with me, and I hope you too have. At least let's not just carry a cup of tea. They always say, take a cup of tea. But for me, I want to say, take some good advice from this meeting, that social protection is a shared responsibility, and it is for all of us, and starts yesterday. Thank you for the skilling program. How do we link these? When we say people should go for skilling, who should be going there, number one? And Honorable Minister, thank you. This is why I really want the mapping. The people benefiting from these government programs are the wrong ones. If there is anything I would have wanted to do is changing the government scholarship scheme from going by the points people have earned. Because the people who get 20 points are from Kitende, and they are from Budo. They have already been paying 3 million, which is higher than the university fee. Now the real person who should have benefited is not even going to get the 7 points. But that brain is there. That's a state asset. I will end with what I found in California and Seattle. I asked them, how do you keep above everybody else? Knowledge is always here, the Silicon Valley. They said, we look at them in kindergarten. As they are playing around those kids of 3 years, of 4 years, we give them state scholarships for life. So it doesn't matter whether it is Trump, this is a state scholarship for life. It would never change, because that brain is a state asset. Now, me, I'm taking it even further. That pregnancy is a state asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Fred A.K. Muhumuza. He never tells you what A.K. stands for, but that's a discussion for another day. Now, I propose that we pick a cup of coffee. He has talked about tea, but I'm promoting coffee. So I want you to pick a cup of coffee. But if you choose to take anything else, well, you have the freedom to do that. And I propose that you pick and you come back. But also, you can pass via the exhibition. There are so many interesting things there. There are exhibitors outside there. So let's use exactly 30 minutes. We come back. By the time we come back, I think the chief guest, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, will be here. Then we shall carry on with the rest of the business. We already prayed in the morning. We don't want to tire God praying so many times. So just pick a cup of tea, coffee, cocoa, chocolate, 30 minutes, come back. But if you please, just bring your cup of coffee inside and we go ahead with business. Time is of essence. Don't network for now. It's not networking coffee. It is pick the coffee and get back. Apoyo Matek.
Sakata is a social cash transfer for all the refugee persons who are 80 years and above.
Alajil tai da mutu ta dan. Wana bajayene ashane na dakarabu fi Sudan.
The social cash transfer for the refugees is one of the interventions which contributes to our social protection strategy, national social protection strategy, which came into force in 2024. And here we committed ourselves as government to extend services of social protection to the broader community, including the refugees.
Erotan gidachulu de piabi kial, piabi yo. Widabi galda guruida de ana basado aboba agda basado fi well food basado fi guru
sugene kuya wojo bereni detilen ka bamia ka kilongete doka isu ngokolo ling doka isu kasan lokinga ku kolong na kudu bae bamia bae godora bae laga ngoto na de onda ini bonyelo dera ile gbegbere
yani bene kada kan mala arven chane ata ko ke ne ko an wa kwa ka guddi ko ko mia mia
ai kona narumbini gurus kekene nendadi nang burun dingologon nang nyenye ngarakan dari make anyen nang gudi bona logo nang gede metese ke kone kira maji gede ke kenda bora anyen kulogu nang kobo
ai likane guru jibu ana bakulu elawin bena yimaya o bena yiwiya
na mana ngam gadi nyo mana nyola.
People are happy, the refugees on the ground who have received this. Some feel now that they can stand alone, they can achieve food in their nutrition, provide other basic needs for themselves through that intervention.
Sekata is a social cash transfer for all the refugee persons who are 80 years and above.
Alajil tai da mutu ta dan. Wana bajayene ashane na da karabu fi Sudan.
The social cash transfer for the refugees is one of the interventions which contributes to our social protection strategy, national social protection strategy, which came into force in 2024. And here we committed ourselves as government to extend services of social protection to the broader community, including the refugees.
Erotan bidachulu de piabi kial, piabi yo. Widabi galde guru ida de ana basado aboba agda basado fi well food basado the guru
guru sugene kuya wojo
erotan bidachulu de piabi kial, piabi yo. Widabi galde guru ida de ana basado aboba agda basado fi well food basado the guru.
Sekata is a social cash transfer for all the refugee persons who are 80 years and above.
Alajil tai da mutu ta dan. Wana bajayene ashane na da karabu fi Sudan.
Bamia bae godora bae laga nguto na de unda ini bonyelo dera ile gwegwere.
Yene gene kada karmala. Argen chane ata ho ke nebo anu waka gudi ko kumania.
Ai kona narumbini gurus kegene nendadi nang burun di ngologon nang nyenye ngara kandare make anyen nang guri gona logo nang gede betesi ke kone kira ngaji gede ke kenda ora
erotan bidachulu ai kane guru jibu ana ba ku dabi galde guru dela win bena yimaya de ana basado wiya aboba da basado
nyola
fi well food basado guru.
Some feel now that they can stand alone, they can give food in their nutrition, provide other basic needs for themselves through that intervention.
Gwereni detilen kabamia ka kilongete doka isu mokolo ling doka isu kasan lokinga kukolong na kudubai bamia bae godora bae laga nguto na de unda ini bonyelo dera ile gwegwere.
Yene gene kada karmala. Argen chane ata ho ke nebo anu waka gudi ko kumania.
ai kona narumbini gurus kegene nendadi Sekata is a social cash transfer for all the refugee persons who are 80 years and above.
Alajil tai da mutu ta dan kane guru jibu ana bajayene ana bakulu ashane elawin na da karabu fi Sudan ubena yiwiya
na mana ingam gadi nyoma na nyola.
People are happy, the refugees on the ground who are refugees. Some feel now that they can stand alone. Social cash transfer for the food in their nutrition is one of the other basic needs to our social protection strategy, national social protection strategy, which came into force in 2024. And here we committed ourselves as government to extend services of social protection to the broader community, including the refugees.
Good morning, everyone. It's so great to be back in Kampala. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of social protection this year. But unfortunately, I need to leave for Johannesburg today. So I really appreciate the opportunity to give this presentation virtually. So let's cut to the presentation.
Guru sugene kuya wojo.
Talk about the global and regional evidence on
universal social protection.
Doka isu,
mokolo ling doka isu, kasan lokinga, kukolong na kudu bae, bamia bae, godora bae, laga mutu na deunda ini bonyelo dera, ile gwegwere.
And we can look at three waves of social policy innovation that over the past few decades have advanced.
Ai kona narumbini gurus kekene nendadi nang burung di ngologon nang nyenye ngarakan dari make anyen nang guri bona logo nang gede metesi ke kone kira maji gede ke kenda bora anyen kulo gunang ko bora
ai likane guru jibu ana bakulu ela win bena yimaya o bena yiya
People
are happy, refugees on the ground who have refugees. Some feel now that they can stand alone, they can achieve food in their nutrition, provide other basic needs for themselves without intervention.
Back to Uganda and began to design the SAGE program, Social Assistance Grants for Empowerment. And over the course of these decades, we've seen a progression of coverage from minimal coverage back to the 1990s to 4 out of 10 people covered in 2010. And today, for the first time in history, more than half of the world's population is covered by social protection programs. And what we have learned is that these are simply the best instruments governments have for ensuring social inclusion, for tackling poverty and vulnerability. And I want to highlight one important innovation. This year, Uganda is lowering the age threshold for the Senior Citizens Grant from 80 to 65 and increasing adequacy from 25,000 shillings to 35,000 shillings. These are powerful investments in social inclusion. But a funny thing happened on the way to the pay point. Researchers looking at these programs discovered that even though they're designed to include people, to tackle poverty and vulnerability, and to share the benefits of economic growth more broadly on the highway to prosperity, they were also the government's best investments in human capital development, in livelihoods empowerment. And governments began to ask, if we get all these developmental impacts without even trying, what would happen if we tried? And that triggered a second wave of social protection programming, building comprehensiveness. BRAC was one of the first organizations internationally to start graduation programs. But South Africa began to integrate human capital into these kinds of programs and saw that cash plus services had powerful developmental impacts. Today, this is the norm. And programs in Uganda, like Girls Empowering Girls with the Kampala Capital City Authority, are models of youth development that other countries across Africa and around the world are learning from. And I want to highlight one particular second wave program, Uganda's new child disability benefit, because it is so important. First, in terms of adequacy, providing 100,000 shillings a month, initially aiming to reach 7,000 children, and adopting a comprehensive approach. It's not just a cash transfer. It provides and supports access to health and education services. It helps people with disabilities, children with disabilities, access assistive devices. It provides sensitization to change the social norms that create more inclusive environments for children with disabilities. It's a broad second wave program promoting socioeconomic inclusion. But today, we face unprecedented crisis in global development cooperation. And this crisis is interacting with accelerating megatrends, demographic change. Uganda has one of the world's youngest populations, and that's a huge potential dividend if we can identify ways to build the human capital of children and ensure they transition to adulthood with opportunities to contribute to the social and economic life of their families, their communities, and the nation. We're also facing, though, technological changes like artificial intelligence that are creating huge shocks to labor markets, and of course, climate change. And this is giving rise to a third wave of social protection that takes the infrastructure, which is so important for the government of Uganda's development strategy, and interweaves it with the software of social protection to provide more developmental impacts. We've seen this third wave emerging for decades, but today it's more important than ever that social protection provide and support the social dimension of larger developmental strategies. And one reason why is because this is the best pathway we know to overcome the biggest bottleneck to expanding coverage, to expanding adequacy, to improving comprehensiveness, and that is more money. A couple years ago, we could look to development partners to help support the funding gaps, or we could motivate government to expand domestic resource mobilization. But all across Africa and around the world, governments are more indebted than ever before. And global development cooperation is seeing dramatic declines in global resourcing. So how can Uganda, how can Africa, how can countries around the world finance the important imperatives of expanding coverage and adequacy and improving comprehensiveness? We see across the continent an emerging financing framework. It starts with national ownership. This is the African Union Agenda 2063's main objective. Africa finances its own development. When we saw a chainsaw taken to USAID earlier this year, leaders across Africa said, this is a wake-up call. We need to increase domestic resource mobilization. And interestingly, a poll of countries around the world identified that the one region of the world most willing to pay more to finance climate action, to finance the kinds of reforms that improve people's lives are in Africa, with more than about 3 out of 4 people willing to pay 1% of their income in order to support these vital global public goods. And so Africa is in a good position to begin, as it grows into more prosperous nations with expanded fiscal resources, to take on the primary role in financing expansion of coverage and improvements in adequacy and comprehensiveness. But how do we get to the point of a prosperous economy that can afford this greater investment? There are 3 on-ramps to this highway to prosperity. And one is new roles for development partners. We see dramatic cuts in what many of us have seen as the primary role for development partners to help pay for these vital social and economic investments. As that money dissipates, development partners are taking on new roles, convening complex partnerships, building government capacity, sharing the global public goods that knowledge and cooperation represent. And we see many of the fruits of this cooperation. Next year, Ethiopia will host. Now, I want to start with the first wave, but I think we all know about the first wave of social protection. South Africa's Child Support Grant, Kenya's OVC Cash Transfer Program, Zambia's Social Cash Transfer Pilot. All of these demonstrated at the first African Union Ministerial back in 2006 in Livingstone. And Uganda's government...
for your insights that you've shared with us. And over to you, Commissioner. Please take your seat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gloria. Let's clap for Gloria once again. And let's clap for the panel. Francis, you really can't give us 500 shillings per child every day to feed them. And the results that you have had, and you told us money will come. Let the money come, let's feed our children. Thank you once again. And when they were discussing, they reminded me of what Albert Einstein said. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We must do things differently if we are talking about real investment in a human capital development. The people to develop this country will not come from anywhere else. They must be our children. The way we feed them, the way we educate them, it matters. One hot meal at school a day can cause a difference. So Francis and Janet, I'm banking on you to tell Honorable Kasaija and to tell the Permanent Secretary, Secretary of the Treasury, that we need this money. Family-based safety nets, investment in children, issues to do. And I want to put this to all of us, because I was asked this question on NBS, and I couldn't answer. A journalist asked me, does everybody have a right to produce children? I was lost. I tried to say, I think so. He said, now you are the problem. But recently, my former driver visited me. He's 47 years. He has 26 children. 47 years, 26 children. And I'm not creating a story. And I asked him, what's your target? He said, I want 30. I asked him why. Because my big brother, who is 49, he has 36 children. And that's why I was telling you, why are people producing like they have contractual obligation? Because if you are going to have 13 grandchildren and you are still burdening Mr. Isavi Dajaja to look after your children, I think that's asking for too much. We need to repent and only produce the children we can afford to look after. Because the quality of the children matters. It is not the quantity. So for people just to go, and I told you, 42% of all the pregnancies in this country are unplanned. People just get pregnant anyway. And that's why I have children on the streets, and when they find them, they call, hey, Commissioner, Department Youth and Children, why are these children on the streets? I tell them I know where my own biological children are. None of those children are mine. Well, they are mine, because I work with the department. But I mean, people should not put their burdens on other people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the chief guest is just around the corner. And one of the things he is going to do here is to launch the Cash for Work program. And many of you could be asking yourselves, what is the Cash for Work program? The Cash for Work program, in line with the mandate of the Ministry of Coordinating Implementation of the National Social Protection Policy, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development has designed the Cash for Work program to create short-term labor-intensive employment opportunities for unemployed youth, vulnerable women, and poor working-age adult men and women. The purpose of the Cash for Work program is to mitigate income shocks encountered by the poor and vulnerable households in the refugee settlements and the hosting communities due to forced displacement, effects of climate change, and limited capacity to manage socio-economic risks. When the ministry embarked on the process of designing the Cash for Work program, ILO made a commitment to provide $921,000 US, equivalent to 3.3 billion, for implementation of the Cash for Work program in Isingiro, Madio, Koro, and Terego districts. With the funding from ILO, the ministry expects to support 55 community projects in the 3 districts and enroll 5,500 beneficiaries from eligible households who will earn income for participating in labor-intensive public works projects, such as afforestation, construction of soil and water conservation structures, rehabilitation of wetlands, maintenance of community access roads, and desilting of roadside drainage channels. So this is the program, and we intend to see that the beneficiaries of the program will participate in the community projects for a period of 3 months, and they will earn 7,000 per day for 18 days every month, which translates into 126,000 every month and 378,000 for 54 days. So we think this is part of the way in terms of cushioning our people against the vagaries of shocks, climate, and otherwise. Now, as we wait for the chief guest, who is walking in any minute now, I can see somebody burning with a question. Can somebody move the mic to... you have taken long, you may not manage to take the mic before the chief guest walks in. I'm suspecting I can smell the chief guest coming in. And so, my friend, you can ask quickly without the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, who is also the Honorable Member of Parliament for Ruhinda and who was turned unopposed. Right Honorable, you are welcome. National Anthem and East African Community Anthem, 1 stanza each. East African Community.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you very much. We can take our seats. Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, Right Honorable Samuel Tayebwa, also MP Ruhinda North County, unopposed incoming MP. We congratulate you. Congratulations. We'll come back from the trenches, and thank you for being with us. Can you allow me now invite the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Agure Chibenge, to officially welcome you here.
Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Honorable Minister in charge of Disability Affairs, Honorable Members of Parliament, Excellencies, Heads of Diplomatic Missions, Development Partners, representatives of civil society organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I was supposed to have made these as my opening remarks, but I'm also aware that our chief guest has requested that we quickly go through this session because of other pressing commitments. But I would like to welcome you, distinguished participants, in your respective capacities, to this year's National Dialogue on Social Protection, held under the theme, Enhancing Access to Social Protection for Inclusive Socio-Economic Transformation. This dialogue marks the climax of the Social Protection Month 2025, a period dedicated to reflection, learning, and collective action to strengthen Uganda's social protection system. Through this month, we have had a number of activities aimed at learning from the experiences of different actors or players, while also showcasing how various social protection interventions have transformed lives. Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Minister Grace Asamo led a team to a benchmarking visit to South Africa on disability inclusion, supported by the World Food Programme and UNICEF, and we've had a mini dialogue also to discuss lessons and consensus has been reached on a way forward. We had a field mission to Chegegwa district, funded by UNICEF, which visited 2 groups of adolescent mothers, supported by the Empowering Adolescent Mothers and Their Children program, implemented with support from UNICEF. And during the mission in Chegegwa, the team also visited beneficiaries of the Social Assistance Grant for Empowerment, SAGE. Progress made by the program was appreciated, as well as issues of reducing the age of entry into the program, increasing the value of the grant paid to beneficiaries. All these were discussed. Fortunately, as this was happening, Cabinet was also taking decisions on this matter, which I'm sure the Minister is better qualified to inform us about. But we have also had several media engagements, and the development and implementation of the National Social Protection Policy, National Social Protection Strategy have all laid a firm foundation for coordinated action. A number of activities have been implemented, and we'd like to appreciate our partners with whom we have walked this journey. These initiatives demonstrate government's commitment to ensuring that no one is left behind in the journey towards inclusive growth and human capital development. Of course, we take cognizance of the low coverage of social protection programs, as well as the new and emerging risks, such as climate-induced disasters, conflicts, and the influx of refugees, which continue to put pressure on households and communities, underscoring the urgency of strengthening resilience through sustainable social protection mechanisms. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to note that we have witnessed or will witness the launch of one of the key initiatives that represents the steps that are being taken to expand coverage of social protection interventions in the country. The Cash for Work program, aimed at providing income support to vulnerable persons who are able to work in refugee host districts of Madi, Okolo, Terego, and Isingiro using the labor-intensive public works approach. This is an initiative that reflects our commitment to advancing a life cycle approach to social protection, ensuring support to seemingly excluded vulnerable categories of people. As we discuss here today, which we have been doing, chief guests, we want to reaffirm our commitment to increasing awareness, understanding, and access of social protection interventions, to amplify advocacy to position social protection as a national priority and a human right, to enhance collaboration and partnership between government agencies, civil society organizations, and development partners for improved social protection service delivery, but also identify best practices and lessons learned from successful social protection interventions in Uganda, facilitating knowledge sharing, replication, and informed decision making. Together we believe we have a duty to build a Uganda where every citizen lives in dignity, has the resilience and access to opportunity. Without naming them, I want to appreciate all our partners for your technical and financial support. Chief guest, ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude with a remark made recently at the World Social Security Forum in Kuala Lumpur, September this year, by the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, who said, "A world characterized by inequality cannot endure, nor can a region or a country." And that means our work is cut out. And I thank you for your kind attention.
A world characterized by inequality cannot endure. If you take nothing from this dialogue, please take that home and work towards equality. Our chief guest, allow me now to invite Honorable Flavia Kabahenda, woman MP Chegegwa, to make remarks, and thereafter, Honorable Flavia accept to invite the Honorable Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development, who will in turn invite the chief guest to address us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, the Honorable Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development, the Honorable Members of Parliament, the PS, Minister of Gender, the Directors and Commissioners of the different agencies, all you champions and players of social protection, media, academia, ladies and gentlemen. I take this great honor to be with you here at the 3rd Annual Social Protection Dialogue. Congratulations. It is when we start discussing about things that matter that we get to grow. The celebration here cannot be taken for granted, and neither is it a tradition. It's a reflection of Uganda's growing commitment to build a nation where every citizen matters, regardless of age, ability, or circumstances, and that we can all live with dignity and security. So our gathering here today reaffirms our belief that social protection is not charity, it's a right, and it is a cornerstone of the national development. The Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection, for which I'm the chairperson and a founding member, has remained at the forefront of the advocacy movement for inclusive and equitable social protection. Through consistent dialogues, policy engagements, and evidence-based advocacy, our forum has ensured that social protection remains firmly anchored in Uganda's national development agenda. We are privileged that the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker is the patron of the forum, and he deserves a clap. This year's achievement is a testament that we have made efforts, and we want to thank the Cabinet that has made a historic decision on the 22nd of September this year to reduce the eligibility age for senior citizens grant from 80 years to 65, back at 65, and that they increase the monthly grant value from 25,000 to 35,000. This milestone marks a very major victory for social justice and reflects the tangible impact of sustained parliamentary advocacy. Furthermore, the critical category of the elderly refugees have also been targeted through a newly launched initiative called Social Cash Transfers for Elderly Refugees that is being implemented in Koboko and Yumbe districts. I think these are pilots because Chegegwa is also a refugee host for a long time. investment to reach at least 3.3 to 5% of GDP by 2031. To achieve this, we must strengthen domestic resource mobilization, explore innovative financing mechanisms, deepen public-private partnership programs for quick and effective delivery. Social protection is a shared responsibility, one that requires political commitment. Our call to policymakers, to development partners, and all Ugandans, let us enhance access, expand coverage, and invest in the people who form the foundation of our nation's prosperity. A call for shared commitment. Fellow champions, this is our moment to build on the gains. I think we should even protect the ones that we have made. The reduction in SAGE eligibility, age, the creation of a child disability benefit, the creation of an elderly refugee grant, and the strengthening of social protection systems are proof that advocacy works when it is persistent, collaborative, and grounded in the needs of our people. As parliamentarians, we must continue to ensure that social protection remains a national priority, fully funded, everybody's business, effectively implemented, and accessible to all. Let us stand firm in our mission to protect the vulnerable, empower the households, and drive inclusive transformation. I thank you very much for the kind listening, for God and my country. May I take this opportunity to raise the Honorable Minister to come and share your passion about social protection, enhancement, and sustainability. Thank you very much, and you're most welcome.
Thank you. The Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, and I would beg that I'll stand over the protocol. You have already been introduced, but I'm also holding the portfolio of the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development. My minister sends greetings, she's out of the country, and whatever we are discussing here will be delivered to its destination. First of all, allow me, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, to congratulate you as somebody who has already secured the next parliament. And I hope you'll support some of us who are also flag bearers to come in as we continue with the work for government. I don't have a written speech, so I don't expect the news people to come and ask me interviews. What I'm going to talk are my own thoughts about social protection. And I came here, I was given a microphone down, and I was like, now when I talk, where will I face? I want to see the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker. The other side will see my behind, the other side will see my front. You are not seeing the whole shape of a minister. So when you talk about access, remember disabled people, because that's my area. When you talk about access, you tend to forget about that category of the most vulnerable in our country. So when I stand here, I'm demonstrating. When we plan, are we thinking about everybody? Oh, we serve to give excuses and say, you give her the microphone, she can talk from here. You deny me rights of seeing everybody in the room. I want to start again by saying, Right Honorable Speaker, when I came here talking about social protection, again, my president describes me as a woman who is down on the ground. He said it in cabinet, he said, Asamo is always thinking about down, and that's me. Why do I think about social protection? We tend to fix our mind on a certain category of people. And Right Honorable, I was here before you. People have talked, they're talking about old people, vulnerable people who are always blanketed. I don't know who they are. They talk about children. But when I sat here, I said, there was a presenter who said a jobless what? That economy now of us as parents who have educated children to university, but there are no jobs. Meaning they are staying at home. Isn't that a social protection issue? When I retire, and Right Honorable, you are really a witness to this. Most of us as members of parliament, when we retire, you really go down. You become poor. You can't even afford a car. You can't even afford the status. Where are we putting that population? Remember, being this member of parliament, I have been supporting these 6, 7 graduates in my house. What happens to that household? Policy analysts go beyond thinking about a certain population. Think about Uganda. And I think we shouldn't be focused in that. Right now we have PDM. But what PDM is about is people getting 1 million. Nobody's thinking, how do we plan social protection within the 1 million, that when the program ends, can we be able to make this sustainable? Can we be able to make this family sustainable? We would have reduced the number of people getting into some of these cash products. Moreover, we are dependent on Uganda non-cash. We are not looking at a situation where there's a system which produces in more money. Because if I have 1 million and I can do maybe agriculture, I get a profit, can I be able to save? I had my good friend from NSS talking about saving. How do we make this money reproductive? Uganda has done a lot of programs on wealth creation. But when the program ends, it ends with the program. And that's we pack the bag, think of another thing. Let's think about how we can take advantage of government programs. Right now, the president is promising on our behalf 2 million for the graduates who have left what? University. And we're thinking, how does the 2 million transform into a saving that can help us in the society? I could be talking outside social protection, but those are my ideas. We have all agreed, yes, social protection is a right. It's not a charity. But if I'm in social protection, how much can I use this money? I heard somebody talking about education. Education is not a classroom. Education is not going to school. Education is the knowledge that is imparted to the population. How can I use this knowledge to develop? I was a primary teacher. I was a very good person practicing what Mondo said. I was producing children, but not, of course, for leisure, as he said. I got 6, that's what the average for an African woman. But I never went begging around to educate these children and educated them. But because within the school, the money I get as a teacher, I was able to diversify. Today you are getting people weeding their granuts, they have harvested. Me, I buy and I store. At a certain time, I would sell it and I would make profit. But talk to the teachers of today. You have to go and riot, you have to protest. Nobody thinks about how do I make my life. Let's imagine Uganda, the government, what they call government, because government is not a human being. It's a state. It doesn't have a face. Supposing it closed, does it mean the whole Uganda will close? This is still food for thought.
I was talking to a friend who told me that in many families, in many homes, it is a stench of dead bodies that informed the community that someone had died. And these were billionaires.
millionaires, yeah, in the Ferrari families, in what? People are dying with cats, with dogs in their homes who couldn't rescue them, which means that social protection for some of us from the African perspective of Ubuntu shouldn't be looked at from an aspect of just having money, but also having community around you, knowing that we are each other's keeper. So whenever you're teaching about social protection, please, these old people, these disabled people, they need the community around them. You might find even the care of a community is more important than the 30,000 that we are giving. And yet, in some aspects, we've lost that spirit. So, Honourable Minister, in whatever programs you talk about promoting social protection, let's reinvent and reinvigorate the spirit of Ubuntu. In society, my village where I grew up, you would know I grew up with my grandmother. Someone would be passing by and bring a piece of soap to my grandmother because they knew she needed it. Someone would be passing by and bring a sack of millet because they know she needs it to make her porridge. Now, these are things which are more critical than even the money that we are talking about. Whenever they would be having Christmas and what, you find people go and ensure that that person has meat to eat on Christmas. That psychological effect of, I have someone who thinks about me, who cares about me, to me offers more protection even than government interventions. So I hope we can dig deeper, we can reinvigorate that spirit of Ubuntu. I was reading somewhere, they said, if there is any country that wasn't affected much with the lockdown, are the Sweden. That because naturally they don't expect even a neighbor to greet you. So if I'm locked down, you don't even know you're in the same apartment, you don't know your neighbor. This is Wazungu, how they live. Man, you greet someone, hello. Someone is like, really? Why are you burdening yourself? Greeting. And yet to me, a greeting is more important. That coldness in how they are as a society, to me is a very big challenge. I would think really I need it much more to feel I'm protected in society. And the whole society thinks about me than saying only government is intervening about my situation. So we can reinvigorate that spirit. We remind these people it is not only the role of government to look after the old and the vulnerable, but it is the role of the community, because one day it will reach on you. Secondly, I really want to thank the executive, Honorable Samo. I request you extend our thanks to the President when you have cabinet. Because there are people who had looked at social protection from an aspect of a cost. You know, it's an expense. I remember when the donors started in 2011, financial 2011-2012, and they were meeting 100%. And then they came in and put us on pressure. No, these are your people. You must come, you look after them. You know, I really want to thank the Minister of Gender for pushing and the MPs who played a critical role for pushing. Because, look, social protection is an investment in a national resilience strategy. You can't be resilient as an economy, as a country, when your people are vulnerable. Especially these people whom we hope that can help shape the moral fabric of society. The people whom we believe that are very, very critical when one dialogue in society, it's sort of, and to guide. When I go back home, I go, I sit with the elders for guidance. I say, what do people say about me? What do I need to improve? You know, I go back to the elders. When I'm stuck, I drive to the home of one of the elders, and they guide me. So these people are depository of national resilience, and they are critical pillar if we are to look at national resilience, and we can't just leave them at that. So to find that now the government is meeting all costs, we appropriate 121 billion per financial year to meet the cost of SAGE. Okay? And I hope the disability, the Child Disability Fund, we are also going to consider it in the next financial year. Okay? I remember when I was meeting your team, I was like, 10 billion. No, the people we have, if we had to dig deeper. So, Honorable Minister, please push for it. Let it come out properly, clearly, that now we are going to include children with disabilities. Because these children, they have grounded their mothers. They have grounded their relatives at home. And they are not productive at all. So in short, you're grounding the economy. You're grounding the sustainability of, so but if you provide some fund that can help them get a caretaker, that can meet the best cost, then you're setting the mother free, you're setting the father free to go and be productive. And out of being productive, as long as you make money, for us government, we know where we shall get you from. We know Ugandans. When Ugandans are happy, they drink soda. When Ugandans are happy, they cut cake. When Ugandans get some little money, they drink beer. We shall get you. So we need to be deliberate in stimulating your own productivity as an individual. And the moment we do that, then you will contribute to the national coffers. So to me, it's not a cost, it's an investment. It is an investment, and an investment we must look at deliberately and see how best to support. So I was checking with the minister and the peers. Now for us to put the age to 65, which has been, and that's, you also deserve a very big clap for that. So finance, I hope the 252 billion needed for top up, because we need now we have 121. To achieve this, we need 252 billion top up so that we can cover people who are 65 years. And for us as Parliament, we are ready to appropriate it. Now that this is your commitment, we are going to fight for it. And the unfortunate news to finance, I'm the patron to this forum. So I don't know how I will face my members who have pushed and the president has endorsed it. So we must look for this money by all means. 252 billion so that we look after, and plus around 15 billion for the Child Disability Fund, which I hope you've now worked on the mechanisms we say of concluding. We have put in a legal regime. I know there are still gaps, especially consolidating the legal regime to ensure that we have, one law that covers all aspects. But I do hope that indeed we are going to strengthen it further. Now, we must also be deliberate as government. And I think cabinet, you need to look at this. I'm no longer a member of cabinet. Many people think when you're a deputy speaker, you sit in cabinet. No, I was sitting in cabinet. I sat in cabinet for 9 months. So now I'm also a consumer of what cabinet decides. So I think we also need a deliberate plan of promoting safe public investment ventures for people. Because for me, there are these guys of life insurance. They come to me, I say, no, why should I give you that money? Because I've invested it in my businesses, I've ensured that my businesses will sustain my family. But then you have some people who are making money and are not able to invest. Not everyone is an investor, not everyone is a business person. It's a very good example. I think 62% of Americans have their money in stocks. And they are making good money. I was checking, if you invest on average $250 per year from your working age, when you're reaching the age of 60, in America, there is a chance you will be having $1 million. Okay, clean. But then you have people who invested around $10,000 in the stock of Amazon, and in around 10 years, these people are making around $2-3 million. Now, 62% of the American population has their money in stocks. How many Ugandans have their money in stocks? When I was checking with the stock exchange, we have 250,000 people who are registered, but only 46,000 people are active. And most Ugandans, I can bet, you watch news, but you don't watch that business part of the cost of the dollar, how is it performing, how is the stock market performing. You go, you check on that part, usually you find we have traded around 100,000 Uganda shillings. Then you ask yourself, how do these brokers survive? Stock exchange brokers, how do they survive? So why aren't we having more companies coming on board? Why aren't we deliberately looking at these multinational companies, insisting you can't be making this money out of account and you take it out? Why are we a country whereby these banks are coming, making hundreds of billions from the treasury bills and bonds, and next day they take it out? In Kenya, you can't. In Kenya, the money remains in the account at least for 2 years, the money you make as profit. But Uganda, a bank comes, okay, picks money, like why I don't invest in this, is it unit trust? Yes, I've been talking to many people who have been coming to me for investment. And they say, but me, I have $1 billion in unit trust. You know, I'm safe. I say, are you mad? What business do unit trusts do? Maybe you people know better. Because what unit trusts do, they pick money from you at 11% per annum, and they say they give you a daily interest. Then you do an average. You find they've given you annual 11%. So they take this money. There is an auction coming up. I was seeing you need around 430 billion. Yes, 430 billion shillings, which these people need. And I hope it can be in a range of around 16-17%. Okay? So these people pick money from you at 11%, take it to Bank of Uganda, they buy treasury bonds at 17%. Okay? And UAP alone had around 1.4 trillion in unit trusts. And then they remain with a balance of 6%. Let's assume they have operation costs of 2%. They have saved, 1%. They've saved a beautiful 4% at 5%. Okay? Your money which you put in unit trusts. So they are mere brokers. You get your money, you take it to brokers instead of opening an account, a transaction account with any bank which you bank in. Okay? And you go, you participate, you buy a bond, you buy a treasury bond, you buy a... So how do we educate Ugandans about all these opportunities? To me, this is better social security. And we have a poor saving culture. A very poor, you meet, there is one British philosopher who said, who talked about money. And he said, if you make 20 shillings and you eat 18 shillings, if you make 20 pounds and you eat 18 pounds, you will never be in problem. Most of you financial problems you're in, you make 18 and you eat 20. And that's how Ugandans survive. So when you get money, you first eat and you save the balance. The balance will never be there. So I've been teaching people in my constituency to use my grandmother, our grandmother's adage, when they were packing for us food, going to school. All of you, I think most of you grew up when they were packing for you. They first, before they serve dinner, they pick your food for school tomorrow. They put it aside and they pack it for you, then you eat the balance. But for us, we first eat, we wait for the balance to save. And after, at 60 years, when the world has, you no longer have a job, when you no longer have what? You are gone. So to me, social protection, I do believe beyond government, we must involve and educate the public. Can we educate our people about saving? Can we push for more vehicles of saving? I'm happy NSSF is pushing more for the informal sector. I'm really, really excited by what NSSF is doing, by now going into the informal sector. And they deserve all our support. I hope we can do that. But again, we must integrate health, the health of our population. We must integrate it into social protection. I'm just looking forward to a day when we shall have the universal insurance scheme, so that every Ugandan is insured. Because me, I deal with former MPs. Their biggest challenge is on medical. If I'm covered on issues of medical, I can go and survive. Okay? I can go and survive. I hope Cabinet, you can also take on that issue quickly. Otherwise, I really want to thank you, and I'll be waiting for the actionable points way forward on what you need us to do as Parliament, so that we can come in and support you. I want to thank you. Oh, you said I needed to. Okay, but the thing is done.
No, Right Honorable, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, there is something you are going to launch.
Oh, okay. There's something
the Cash for Work program, which is part of social protection. So we are bringing it forward for your signing.
Beautiful.
And I request the Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary and Honorable Flavia Kabahenda. Right Honorable the Parliament of Uganda, under the mandate of coordinating implementation of the National Social Protection Policy, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development has designed the Cash for Work program to create short-term labor-intensive employment opportunities for unemployed youth, vulnerable women, and poor working-age adult men. Right Honorable, this is the program you are launching today with funding from ILO to the tune of 3.3 billion. 3.3 billion, that's what we have, and we are going to be in Isingiro, Madiokoro, and Terego districts. With more cash, we can do more. And Right Honorable, we also learned here that we can spend 500 shillings to provide a hot meal to every child at school. If you can also help us, we find this money, then every child will have a hot meal. They no longer pack food to school because sometimes it gets contaminated. But we have learned that every child needs just 500. And with your keen interest in children, it can be done.